Hi! In my last video, I gave you the backdrop of change in technology, storytelling goals, and coverage capacity of news media now versus in the early 1980s. That backdrop was given so that you could see the difference not only in the debates themselves, which I will get to in this piece, but also in the way we as a nation are given those debates to digest. As I showed in the last episode, the way television has changed over time has manifested itself as a deeply ingrained need on the part of 24-hour news to create headlines. This in turn has completely changed the way in which we are presented with news from the 1980s to now. And as television has evolved, so too have our debaters changed in order to meet its demands. Let me give you a quick mashup. It's not the ideal way I would like to show you this, but it is a way, and I'll link the full debates I'm putting into this mashup into the description down below.
Good evening. The television and radio stations of the United States and their affiliated stations are proud to provide facilities for a discussion of issues in the current political campaign by the two major candidates for the presidency. The candidates need no introduction. The Republican candidate, Vice President Richard M. Nixon, and the Democratic candidate, Senator John F. Kennedy. According to rules set by the candidates themselves, each man shall make an opening statement of approximately 8 minutes duration and a closing statement of approximately 3 minutes duration. In between, the candidates will answer or comment upon answers to questions put by a panel of correspondents. In this, the first discussion in a series of 4 joint appearances, the subject matter has been agreed will be restricted to internal or domestic American matters. And now for the first opening statement by Senator John F. Kennedy.
Good evening. I'm Ruth Heinerfeld of the League of Women Voters Education Fund. Next Tuesday is Election Day. Before going to the polls, voters want to understand the issues and know the candidates' positions. Tonight, voters will have an opportunity to see and hear the major party candidates for the presidency state their views on issues that affect us all. The League of Women Voters is proud to present this presidential debate. Our moderator is Howard K. Smith.
Thank you, Mrs. Heinerfeld.
From NBC News. Decision 2016, the first presidential debate. Live from Hofstra University in Hempstead, New York. Here now, Savannah Guthrie and Chuck Todd.
And good evening, everybody. Nice to have you with us, Chuck. After all the hype, all the prep, all the pre-debate gamesmanship from both campaigns, this is it. We are literally just minutes away now from the start of this first and all-important presidential debate on the stage behind us. We've already seen the candidates tonight, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, each arriving here a bit earlier this evening. They're waiting backstage. And Chuck, we've had a moment tonight.
Yeah.
President Bill Clinton is in the house and met Mrs. Melania Trump, and they just shared that handshake. We've got the whole families assembled here.
We do, and I think one thing we got to remember, as big of personalities that they are, and we know this is going to be a clash of big personalities, this is also a clash of two competing visions of America. Hillary Clinton embracing the many cultural changes, the diversity, the acceleration of globalization that's happening. Donald Trump embracing a vision that says, whoa, let's slow down, let's slow things down, let's look inward a little bit. Let's not let that get lost tonight.
Let's bring in our colleague Tom Brokaw, obviously somebody who's watched a lot of debates, but doesn't this journalists feel like there's something special about this one, if nothing else, because they think maybe 100 million people could be watching.
I've never seen one quite like this, in part because of that 100 million people, a lot of them are still trying to make up their minds. This is going to be an important debate. You add to the television viewership, we've got social media going on, the tweeting that is going on, the texting that is going on, the streaming that is going on. This is the biggest electronic event in American history, to say nothing of American presidential politics.
The stakes are so high with the polls tight, as we've seen just as recently as today. Let's go to Andrea Mitchell. Hallie Jackson is in the spin room for us. Hallie, good evening.
Hi, Savannah. And here, media and surrogates are ready for what happens after the debate. But before then, here's Donald Trump's biggest test. Can he prove he has the temperament to be commander-in-chief? It's one of his biggest negatives with voters. Too many insults, and he could come off like a bully. Too few specifics, and he could seem unprepared. Savannah?
CBS Sports welcomes you to the following presentation of the National Football League.
And that, dear viewer, is the problem with the debates. They have changed so much in 40 years as to be unrecognizable from their initial form and intent. And to bring in my point from before, they have changed as a direct result of the media landscape they are aired in. Are there better and worse moments in the last 40 years of debates? Yeah. But the mere fact that some good points exist when such awful moments do too does not, in my mind, justify the taping and airing of what should be calm platforms for people to express and defend their ideas fully and clearly. You can certainly argue that having two people clearly stating their differences in governance style and ideology is a good way to showcase two candidates, that by having them on stage and answering similar questions gives an immediate and clear comparison for the viewer at home, which they can't get anywhere else. But a clear juxtaposition between two candidates' personalities and ideologies is not what we have. Instead, we have oh, but you did this one time, and no, that's not what I said, and interrupting and mocking and general tomfoolery on a stage from which we will be selecting our most important public official. Let me say that again because it's crucial to my argument. In my view, and you can disagree with me, but in my view, the only thing we should be getting from our politicians during a debate is a clear and direct explanation in detail of what their policy pushes will be and how they will make those occur. That is it. We can garner their personality from interviews and town hall rallies on the campaign trail, but we shouldn't be looking for their personality on the debate stage. Now, let me wax poetic about why we don't need the current debate format. A leader is someone with vision, someone who can give voice and then substance to an idea that is not yet reality. We do not need to have people yell over and huff and bluster and demean one another for spectacle to determine who the best leader is. We need only see them speak, hear their ideas, and having heard them, if we not only want to go with them into their future, but we can also see the future that they have spoken into existence, then in that moment, a candidacy has substance. You don't need to read a headline telling you that someone won or someone lost. By watching a group of people speak their vision, whichever person you trust and believe in the most will be the person in your mind who will have won, which is the ostensible purpose of the debates. But that is not the system we live in. We live in a system where bluster and being able to play to a camera means more than tangible leadership skills and a record of just action. So how do I suggest we go about changing what the debates look like? If the debates that we currently have are just vapid arguments established for news outlets to garner headlines and formalized debates at every level of the election process are too time-consuming, what do I see as the solution? Interviews. Why is it that we don't ever see an hour or two long interview with a candidate while they are running for office? The obvious concern here would be that journalists would use this time to ask gotcha questions of candidates who they viewed less favorably. So instead of having a journalist do it, why not town hall it? Or have experts ask the questions. Similar solutions to what Vox has proposed. There's a link in the description. But with a totally new format. The candidates are alone in a room with no prior knowledge of questions and then have to answer, in however long a period they see fit, those questions posed to them. The footage should be filmed of each candidate in the primary process at the expense of their party. No media corporation involvement whatsoever. And then that footage is given to news networks to air under the stipulation that they must air it fully and without editing, except for commercial breaks, and that they must air each candidate who is filmed. The videos must be released during prime time for however many days it takes to get through each video, and once it's all over, All of them go up on Netflix, Hulu, Disney+, YouTube, and Amazon Prime. The ad revenue loss will be minimal for news syndicates since commercials can still be aired and people are obviously hungry for this sort of information. Your viewership won't go down. The candidates get time to fully articulate their opinions for the American people. Headlines can still get spun off these interviews, but they will lack the fight aspect that is so prevalent today, and the media will still be able to build whatever narrative they like with the answers. They may not have banner nights like each debate night, but I think that we as a nation are tired of seeing our politics turned into a sporting event. I think we'll be okay with some measured discussion at a slow pace for a while. And at the end of the day, we will have eliminated a clearly defunct system of debating. We will have forced upon people a return to a more decorous form of discourse, which you can see in the debates of the 1980s and 1960s. They won't be standing in the same room. They won't be able to reply in the moment to their opponent's ideas, but they also won't be shouted down and belittled and hampered for time in the inane ways we currently allow them to be. If the structure of coverage can so radically influence the way our politicians act and are perceived, then the onus is on us to demand different coverage. Only by demanding that sea change into a calmer, more civil expression of thought and then enforcing that civility through its production will we get equitable coverage of our candidates moving forward. I would like to put a call to action here. Not only should we be demanding titans like ABC, Fox, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN to request and then air this coverage from the committees in the way I have laid out, or in a close approximation to it, then I am asking each of you, dear viewers, to help me reach out to companies like Vox, Vice News, Rolling Stone, or PBS, whose Nightline series, A Country Divided, is a fantastic representation of the sort of coverage I'm envisioning. Unless we work to change the status quo won't change. And if we're tired of marginal progression and often massive regression in politics, why are we comfortable accepting regression in our coverage of it? Thank you. Spencer.